MidDays.
Well, we kicked the program off this morning, folks. We got a full slate of candidates on once again. It's the Secretary of State of the great state of Mississippi, Michael Watson. Mr. Secretary, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure, and thank you for having me. It's been a great morning. Enjoy the Neshoba County Fair every year. It's a great place. It's America at its finest.
Well, you are about to complete your first term serving the great state of Mississippi as our Secretary of State, seeking election for another term. What's your message this morning?
You know, I think if you look back at the 4 years that we've had in the Secretary of State's office, and I mentioned that this morning, I can walk out right now and turn the lights out and say I left it better than I found it. And I think that's one of the measures that we should put in our candidates and the folks that are elected to office. Look at what they've done. Is the office better when they're leaving it than they found it? And I can profoundly say that and you know, really believe in election integrity, the work that we've done across the street, talking about cutting the regulatory burden, talking about our task forces that have really taken on tough topics that Mississippians deserve solutions for. And so the work that we've done, the team that we've built, I couldn't be more proud of our group and what we've done over the last 4 years.
So I recall your message, Mr. Secretary, in the 2019 campaign where you had as a goal, as an aim, to reduce the regulatory burden to the extent your office could, to incentivize business formation, business expansion. You created a program called Tackle the Tape, and you were recently recognized for that effort in the program there among your Secretary of State peers. Tell us about that.
We just won the Ideas Award, and it's for the most innovative program across the country. So all the Secretary of States from around the United States came together at the NAS conference in D.C. and voted, and we were awarded with the Ideas Award. And again, it just speaks to the work that we've done to focus on cutting the regulatory burden. And it's not something that you just talk about, Gerard. If you look at our business numbers and the growth that we've seen in our state or our small businesses, it's actually putting it on the ground. And we've talked about this before. You can talk politics, you can talk policy, and in theory, that's great. But is it working on the ground?
Right.
And so as we see our small businesses grow, as we see us tackle the tape and or navigate the regulatory burden, we're seeing success on the ground with our businesses. They're able to put food on the table and grow their communities, grow our state. And so it's been very successful, and honored to have an award like that from across the country, that people are recognizing what we're doing here in Mississippi. And on top of that, we've had states call now and say, hey, how do we do this in our states?
Yeah.
And so that's the important piece. It's not just here. We're actually making it better across the country.
Yeah. Well, Mississippi will improve and achieve its full potential when we grow our economy. It's just simple as that. And the key to growing our economy is to make it easy to launch a business, to expand a business, and to take care of the business obligations that especially small and mid-sized businesses have that don't have access to a lot of expensive resources just to meet all those regulatory requirements.
That's exactly right. And I would say this, not only are we doing Tackle the Tape, which I encourage everyone to take a look at on our website. If we can help, please do that. But also to our new businesses who are out there, when they register with our office, they're now getting invited to a Welcome to Business webinar. And Wade Hinton's here and his team who have grown that out, because businesses sometimes don't understand exactly what the regulatory burden is.
Yeah.
What are the things that I need to know as a small business owner? And at the beginning, it was just, hey, we file our paperwork and you're done.
Yeah.
We're tired of that. We want to build a relationship with these Mississippi businesses to help them foster growth, to cut the regulatory burden, to make it easier on them to do business in our state. And so, as I mentioned this morning, we're also working on a new program now called a one-stop shop. And basically, as you know, when you work with the state, too many times you got to have 14 different usernames and 5 different passwords and 6 different this. And so we want to build a platform where someone can come and they can connect with our office, with Department of Insurance, with DES, with you name it, across the board, to make it easier, again, on our businesses to grow and prosper here in Mississippi.
Yeah. So let's turn our attention to elections. We got a primary coming up here in less than 2 weeks. Your office, of course, is responsible for elections in Mississippi, as is the case, I think, in all 50 states, if I'm not mistaken. That responsibility falls underneath the Secretary of State. How are we looking, and are we ready?
Really good. And I literally just got back from a conference where we were talking to legislators from around the country about what we did in Mississippi. and what you can do in our states based on how we've worked here in Mississippi. Again, leading the country on focusing on the integrity of the process. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done. But election integrity there's no finish line. You don't get there and it stops.
Yeah.
There will always people who are trying to subvert the system, so we'll continue to work on that. But really proud of the work that we've done. I'm confident in Mississippi's elections coming up. As we've talked before, it's a bottom-up situation here in our state where our clerks and our commissioners do the really hard work, and I just appreciate what they do and the success that we've had across this state. As you mentioned before, most of the secretaries of state around the country do have that authority. There are some states who do not have secretaries,
right,
where the lieutenant governor actually oversees that, and there are some who have independent election boards. So it's a little bit of a difference, but most of the states have secretaries overseeing elections.
So something else you and I have talked about, we just did a minute ago offline, don't mind sharing that with our audience, is just concerns, of course, that a lot of people have, just the general population, voting integrity, especially concerned about automated ballot machines, voting machines, and just their vulnerability. But I'll add a dimension to that concerns me, Mr. Secretary, and that's just the protection of the systems stored in our circuit clerk's offices where all of our voter rolls are. And they are vulnerable, as are all electronic systems that connect to the Internet. They're vulnerable to compromise and breach. And bad guys could render those systems inaccessible such that we could not conduct elections.
That's exactly right. And on that point, not only do you talk about cybersecurity, you also talk about physical security.
Yeah.
Where are they holding these machines? Where are they holding their computers and their databases and their stacks and you name it? So of late, we've met with a couple of security groups in cybersecurity world, and we're going to start basically a small academy where we're going to travel around the state, meeting with these counties, saying, hey, very basic stuff. Do you have a .gov or you have something .net or whatever that's not as secure as .gov? Do you have this? Do you have this? So teaching them the importance of controlling and the access to that data. But it's a team sport. Elections, we have to have our circuit clerks, we have to have our commissioners, and we have to have a strong Secretary of State to oversee that. And I've told you this before. When we go sit down with all 82 circuit clerks and all 410 elections commissioners, building that relationship, making sure they understand that we care. How do we do our job better to make your job easier?
Right.
Has paid dividends time and time again.
I know you've also pursued legislation unsuccessfully at this point, I might add, to get these dang voter rolls cleaned up. You and I both know we got people out there on the county voter rolls that are over 100 years old when you look at their birth date and do the math on it. And that's what opens up the door for voter fraud, more than anything.
It starts with clean voter rolls, and as we have talked at length, 43 counties when we came in, of the 82, had 90% or more of the voting age population on the registered voter rolls. We've cut that in half, so it's roughly 20 now. So we've got more work to do, but we're making progress. And, again, I think that's where it's important, where we do things like Elections 101,
yeah.
Our initiative right now where we're teaching Mississippians across the board how do elections work. And as they understand whose responsibility is what, your circuit clerks and your commissioners, basically your commissioners, have the heavy weight of cleaning your voter rolls. So making sure they understand that. Those are the individuals you need to hold accountable to make sure we've got clean voter rolls. So we're working on that and educating Mississippians. And as we do that, as they get more comfortable with the process, I think you're going to see more engagement.
The federal government has come down with a ruling about the ballot harvesting law that we have in the state of Mississippi and didn't seem to like what we passed, I think is a way to put it. You got any thoughts about that?
Just very clearly so folks understand what the case is about. It's basically Section 208 of the Voting Rights Act, where they're disability, blind, you name it, have the ability to ask someone to help them to vote.
Right.
And the court was concerned with the provision that basically said caretakers that wasn't defined. So I think we need this law. I think you're going to see, hopefully we prevail. We're looking right now at whether or not we're going to appeal that decision. But I appreciate Doug Miracle and the AG's office for being very helpful with that and walking us through the process. He and Justin and their team over there have been great. So I really appreciate that work. But you'll hear more about that.
Okay. Because that's what opens the door, is it not, is when you have other than caretakers get involved in that. And what they really are operators for a party or a candidate.
That's exactly right.
And they help them. You need to vote this way, so to speak.
One of the things I noticed was there was a mention of a lack of this happening in Mississippi. That's not true. We've got cases that we can talk about, but a long story short, again, it's in the courts right now, so we're going to continue to work.
That's not even a justification. The lie. You implement these laws to prevent those problems.
That's exactly right.
So, well, we appreciate you coming on. Good luck on the campaign. I'm sure we'll be talking to you some more, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your good work.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Secretary of State Michael Watson has been our guest here on